Coming up on Q30 Newscast. Meet the new president set to take over the university at the start of the next academic year.
Learn about infrastructure issues plaguing multiple buildings and get a look at the history of a landmark house right next to campus.
Also see how the Bobcats like to play when it's snowy out.
All that and more coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
Welcome back to the Q30 Newscast. I'm Mo Katz Flynn.
And I'm Joe Flynn.
As we all know, Judy Olian is stepping down as Quinnipiac's president and will soon be passing the torch to Mary Hardin.
Here to discuss the incumbent president is Julia Barcella.
I want to recognize and I want to thank the lifeblood of this institution, and it is faculty, staff, and students. Thank you for the warm, warm welcome.
Quinnipiac University just announced its 10th president, Dr. Mary Hardin, a current dean at Penn State. She comes with a strong background in communications and higher education as the current dean of the Donald P. Bellisario School of Communications at Penn State. She also has a PhD in mass communications from the University of Georgia. Dr. Hardin expressed her eagerness to work with the university in continuing to foster its community.
A dream role happens because you're in a community interested in propelling the entire institution forward and supporting its students every day.
President Olian has expressed her sentiments about concluding her time at Quinnipiac to student media.
It has been a dream job, as I said, and it's hard to really, you want to leave when things are going really there. So, yeah, very mixed emotions because you don't exactly, not like to have a job. You don't exactly know where it's going to be, and you're giving up something that you love.
Hardin hopes to continue President Olian's closeness with university students to ensure a smooth transition of power.
Both been so phenomenal. They really to be quite honest with you, they really have set the tone already for that transition. Judy has been, Dr. Olian has been an incredibly student-focused president. I plan on following in that tenor.
Hardin also spoke about the importance of Quinnipiac's relationship with neighboring towns.
Positive impact on communities. I think about the partnerships that you have fostered with the local communities, and I think about the regional impact, economic impact that Quinnipiac University has had. $1 billion and counting. Amazing.
President Olian will complete 7 years with the university as Dr. Hardin steps in as the 10th president on July 1st. Reporting from Quinnipiac University for Q30 News, Julia Barcella.
Prior to coming to Quinnipiac, Dr. Hardin was a dean at Penn State's Donald P. Bellisario School of Communications.
Q30's Connor Core spoke with a student at Penn State about what a Quinnipiac student should expect from the incoming president.
She wants to talk to people. She wants to help others. And I don't think that'll go anywhere when she does become the president of Quinnipiac.
Michael Cerroti is a sophomore broadcast journalism major who broke the news to the Penn State community at Onward State, the university's alternative news website. The news came out as a shock to Cerroti, as Hardin was a beloved dean at the Donald P. Bellisario School of Communications since 2014. The students at Onward State even posted an article under their tomfoolery section 4 days later on their website about potential replacements. Some of those nominations included former Penn State football coaches, players, famous alumni, and even current Quinnipiac president Judy Olian. One writer even simply writing, "Please don't leave, Dean." Hardin secured $40 million for the school to make a state-of-the-art media center at Penn State University Park's campus. The new media center is a big reason why Cerroti went to Penn State in the first place.
The professionalism that the school provided, and I think Dean Hardin was really the one that was the main face behind it. So she was probably the main reason, again, while it wasn't direct, why I did want to come to Penn State.
So what should students expect from the 10th president for Quinnipiac University? Don't let me tell you.
What Quinnipiac students can expect is someone who wants to make it a better place. She will continue to keep the things that are working going, but she's also going to bring some new ideas, and she will want to hear from students.
Hardin officially takes over as the university's next president on July 1st of this year.
Houston, Texas. Forgive the draw, y'all. It's never going away.
Reporting for Q30 News, I'm Connor Core.
South Quad construction is well underway, and the university is looking to the community for feedback on what to fill new spaces with. They're planning a restructuring to the current academic buildings and university resources due to the addition of the South Quad. In a meeting about space allocation, Provost Deborah Lee Owitz shared her thoughts on the need for reorganizing spaces.
That leaves a lot of open spaces in the existing buildings. What are we going to do with those spaces? And how do we use the fact that we have then some flexibility to figure out how to make the best sense of the campus?
Students of all majors utilize Blackboard to turn in assignments and keep track of the work they need to do. However, Quinnipiac will be making the switch to Canvas starting in the fall semester this year. The decision comes following trial tests from students and faculty. Assistant Provost Adam Nemiroff highlighted the appeal of Canvas over Blackboard.
When we had people on both platforms, we really noticed that it was easier to use for teachers and students in Canvas compared to Blackboard Ultra, the other LMS we were evaluating.
From the Grove to Mountain View, Quinnipiac's facilities just can't seem to catch a break from breaking.
That's right, Michael. Here with the latest on the state of our facilities is Andrew Allison.
Quinnipiac's main campus buildings and dorms have been dealing with infrastructure and facilities-related issues since the start of the spring semester. The Mount Carmel campus suffered a day-long power outage on the semester's first day of classes, during which classes were canceled and academic buildings were closed. Power to dorm buildings and food service locations were quickly restored. However, Quinnipiac's newest residence hall, The Grove, was reported to have issues with its generators.
When we had a power outage, our generators failed, and then we just didn't have any energy at all.
Many Grove residents have reported dealing with plumbing, heating, and mechanical issues in the new dorm building since the start of the academic year.
Parts of the building are failing or falling apart. I was told that the building was built in a rush, so I think that might be why.
Recently, students have been voicing their concerns about infrastructure and facility-related issues in Quinnipiac residence halls.
We live in those dorms that when things go wrong in there, it does directly affect our living and our well-being.
Many students have complained of issues with laundry machines, and there have been reports of a smoking dryer machine in the Perloth residence hall on Monday.
I live in Larson, and there's like dryers that break every once in a while, but I feel like that happens in every dorm.
Yeah, that's also when there's I live in Village, so there's 24 of us living in there, and there's only 2 washers and dryers, so when they're broken, it kind of backs up everybody.
Also, last Wednesday, a pipe burst in room 460 in the Mountain View residence hall, affecting 3 dorms, 460, 360, and 260. Associate Vice President of Public Relations at Quinnipiac, John Morgan, said, quote, "A pipe burst affecting 2 suites in Mountain View around 7 Wednesday night. The impacted students have been offered an opportunity to relocate to other university housing while repairs are being made." Students in 360, the dorm below, moved back in on Tuesday. 460 residents have been told that, as of Monday, they will be able to return to their dorm in 15 to 20 days, according to Residence Hall Director Shai Malcolm. Students are concerned about the state of Quinnipiac's infrastructure and are wondering, will this continue? Reporting from the Grove for Q30 News, I'm Andrew Allison.
Thanks, Andrew. Last Sunday was Groundhog Day, and Puxatawny Phil predicted that we'd have 6 more weeks of winter. It seems like the forecast is reflecting just that.
That's right. Here with this week's latest weather report, bringing along a storm himself, is Anthony Rossi.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I have the 3-day forecast from today, tomorrow, and going into Friday. So let's take a look. First, we start off today. It was a very cloudy day, a high of 33 and a low of 21. Definitely that low of 21 sticks through. Take a look at Friday, another low of 21. Just got to be careful of the ice, especially with that covering that's going on tomorrow with that sleet factor with rain and snow. It's going to be covered up and then get frozen going into the night. So make sure you wear high traction shoes, high traction boots. Make sure to be careful around stairs and concrete. Look out for the black ice. Then going into Friday, it's a high of 40, so you don't really need to worry about the ice during the day. But definitely as the night rolls in and the cold temperatures roll in, be very careful. I'll have the 7-day forecast and the weather from around Connecticut later on. But first, the Q30 Newscast has to take our first commercial break.
Everyone has a ritual, that small thing that keeps us focused.
A habit we never skip to clear our minds and elevate our performance.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game, to drown out that self-doubt and support your mental health? Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mind and your mental health.
Discover the resources that you need to keep your mind focused and your mental health a priority.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because it felt like a failure. And then I realized, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Welcome back to Q30 Newscast. Monday night, Q-Thon held a volleyball tournament fundraising event at BirdCon Court in the Recreation and Wellness Center. Attendees were charged $5 at the door, and the event was packed, heavily attended by Greek life organizations on campus.
This week on Wellness Wednesday, a recent study has found that carbonated water can actually be beneficial for weight loss.
That is right, Joe. Since seltzer contains no calories, it can aid in weight management while also improving hydration, digestion, and blood glucose regulation. Additionally, it can act as an appetite suppressant and helps reduce calorie intake. However, experts emphasize that maintaining a healthy diet and regular exercise are still essential. You can start.
Oh, for sure. But if you're craving something sweet to wash down a salty meal, it's nice to know that still water is not the only option. Whenever I mention to someone that I go to Quinnipiac, one of the first questions they tend to ask me is what I know about the polls. Well, I know this week we got a new one. The recent poll found 46% of voters approve of Trump's work so far in office, while 43% disapprove. 60% of respondents approve of the U.S. deploying troops to the southern border. Finally, 53% of Americans disapprove of the role Elon Musk is currently holding in the government.
Oh, politics. Seems like we can never just get a break from you. However, we have some hot stories from the Capitol for you tonight.
Here with the latest on those is Sydney Weimer.
Joe, lots of political discussions have been happening within the government, so let's jump right into this week's update. Starting off with international affairs, this past Monday, President Donald Trump delayed an executive order placing a 25% tariff on all imports from Mexico and Canada. Following his second entry to office, on February 1st, Trump announced his plans to enforce tariffs starting this past Tuesday on all international imports from countries including Mexico, Canada, and China. Trump's new tariff plan would potentially increase U.S. consumer prices on international goods, as well as stall involved countries' economies. So far, Mexico has not been the only country of the three to have the order delayed, with Canada also reaching a deal to pause the tariff, and China continuing to challenge the tax. Continuing with the theme of international affairs, there has been a recent shift in foreign aid procedure. This past Monday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the de facto takeover of the U.S. Agency for International Development by the U.S. government. This move comes as a primary effort to make the agency's functions more in line with U.S. foreign policy. Rubio criticized the current functioning of the aid program, saying it is a, quote, completely unresponsive agency, end quote. Intended to centralize international aid within government hands, the announcement has raised controversy among lawmakers, specifically Democrats, claiming the change could harm national security and jeopardize diplomatic efforts across the world. Finishing off with news from the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Trump administration has been questioning employees about their involvement with the investigations following the January 6 riots. The administration's Justice Department has issued questionnaires to all FBI employees, asking about potential search warrants, interviews, and testimonies they may have conducted relating to the riots. Defender of Trump and member of his administration, Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove, claimed in a statement that following the completion of the surveys there would be a, quote, review process to determine whether any additional personnel actions are necessary, end quote. This investigation within the FBI follows the forced removal of over half a dozen senior executives, as well as several key career Justice Department officials. The decision to investigate FBI involvement in the Capitol storm follows Trump's pardoning of those charged in relation to the riots during his first day back in office. Now that's all I have for this week's political update. Now time to send it back to Michael and Joe at the desk.
There's still a lot of stories to discuss on the Q30 Newscast, including an update on national news, so don't go anywhere.
Better sprint to the bathroom because you aren't going to want to miss what we have next.
Owen, when you came into my life, it was a whirlwind.
I just can't do it.
We didn't know what the future would hold, but we knew you would always be a part of it. Adopting you was the best decision in our life, and I am so proud to call you my son.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Welcome back to Q30 Newscast. He's Joe Flynn, and I'm Milecast Flynn. Joe, what's with the weather these days? One day it's clear, one day it's freezing, one day it's warm, snows the next day, all gone the next day as if it was never there. Like, what is going on?
I'll say, Michael, the weather seems to never be consistent. Well, thankfully, we have Anthony Rossi back again to clear up the confusion with a full 7-day forecast and the weather around the state. What do you have for us, Rossi?
Thanks, guys. I'm back for the 7-day forecast. So we already previewed the first 3 days. Let's take it the final 4. So we look into Saturday and Sunday. Very common theme. It is a partially cloudy, partially sunny kind of day. High of 37, high of 38. They look kind of the same, but again, getting into the night with that 19-degree low on Sunday, definitely be careful of the ice. It is going to be very treacherous. I cannot stress it enough. Then we go into Monday and Tuesday. Go into Tuesday a little bit. Poxitani Phil, he predicted that it's going to be 6 more weeks of winter, and it looks like Poxitani Phil is going to come through in Mother Nature as well with the snow on Tuesday. Maybe a little bit of a snow day, maybe predicting it. We'll see what happens. But a high of 34 for both days and a low of 23 for both other days. Now looking at the weather tomorrow. So it's a very cold day, a little bit of a brisk day. Is going to be sleeting just really in Hamden. You don't really see that in every single other county or town in Connecticut. Hartford, it's a high of 31 and a low of 18. Torrington, it gets pretty cold, which is not something you commonly see away from the shore, not away from the water, excuse me. But down in New Haven and New London, it's a high of 32, high of 33. So a lot warmer temperatures by the water, but a lot colder as you move farther inland. That's all I have for the weather around Connecticut. Back to you guys at the desk.
Although we're based in Hamden, there's still many things happening outside of Connecticut.
That's right, Joe. From Hamden to across the country, here with this week's national news is Patty Walsh.
Thanks, Michael and Joe. The bodies of all passengers and crew members of American Airlines Flight 5432 have been recovered from the Potomac River. Officials from the Army Corps of Engineers announced in a statement Tuesday. They said, quote, "We have not and will not lose focus of what is most important, the safety of our crews and accounting for those still missing to bring closure to their families and loved ones." The National Transportation Safety Board is still working to figure out why the plane collided with the Army Black Hawk helicopter last Wednesday, shortly before landing at Reagan National Airport. The plane was carrying 64 passengers, including some Olympic hopeful figure skaters traveling back from a competition in Wichita, Kansas. Moving south, the remains of a North Carolina woman who had been missing for over a year were found by a dive team last week and identified Monday. The remains were found in Vance County, just northeast of Raleigh on Thursday, and were determined to be those of Dana Lee Mustian, who was reported missing in December 2023. She was last seen on November 30th of that year when her father dropped her off at her house. Police were contacted 5 days later when she did not show at her daughter's birthday party. The local sheriff's office said that the investigation into her death and disappearance will continue. Finally, over on the West Coast, the stretch of the Pacific Coast Highway that was closed for nearly a month due to the deadly Palisades fire reopened Monday. Los Angeles County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath said in a statement that, quote, essential traffic only is strongly encouraged, and this will not be the same PCH as before the fires. Proof of residence and entry passes are still required to enter the Palisades bird zone, and the California National Guard still has control of the area. The Palisades fire began on January 7th and destroyed nearly 8,000 structures and killed at least 12 people. That's all for national news. Back to you guys at the desk.
The town of Hamden includes a lot of historic sites.
One of those sites is the Jonathan Dickerman House right next to our Mount Carmel campus. Here to discuss the historic homestead is Miranda Pitorti.
Located just steps away from Quinnipiac's campus, the Jonathan Dickerman House has been a rich part of Hamden's history since it was built in the 1790s. The house was built as a farmhouse for Jonathan Dickerman after he moved his family and farm east from western Hamden. His father and uncle moved to Mount Carmel about 50 years prior. The Dickermans became one of the most prominent families in Hamden, having large roles in town affairs and owning major plots of land. The simple design of the house depicts the conservative style of buildings in Hamden during the late 18th century. The president of the Hamden Historical Society, Ken Minkema, had this to say about the significance of the house.
If you go to other towns, the houses that are preserved are usually those of the elite, the rich, and so forth. But here you have really a very ordinary, more vernacular structure from a more middling sort of family.
The Dickerman House became property of the state when it was donated to Sleeping Giant Park at its opening in 1924. It was then donated to the Hamden Historical Society in 1961 and moved across the street where it now resides on Mount Carmel Ave. In May of 2021, a tornado sent a tree through the roof of the house and after extensive repairs has been restored to its original state. The Dickerman House serves as a historical site and museum for the town of Hamden. The Jonathan Dickerman House will be open during the summer months for visitation free of charge. For Q30 News, I'm Miranda Pitorti.
Michael, wouldn't it be nice to have free Krispy Kreme donuts for an entire year?
Oh, you bet. Well, this week on Bobcat Babble, a family who gave birth to their child in a Krispy Kreme parking lot gets to have just that.
An Alabama couple welcomed their baby in a Krispy Kreme parking lot during a rare snowstorm. Shayna Bennett and Keon Mitchell were on their way to the hospital when Bennett realized she wouldn't make it in time. They pulled into the closed Krispy Kreme in Dothan, where baby Dallas Mitchell was born before emergency responders arrived.
The family made it safely to the hospital and was later discharged. In celebration, Krispy Kreme offered them free donuts for a year and a future birthday party for Dallas. Family members jokingly suggested giving the baby the middle name Glaze.
Well, we're coming up on our last break of the night, but don't go anywhere. There's still many stories to cover.
The Q30 Newscast will be right back after this short commercial break.
Can't believe you're doing this alone. I've done it before. I remember you threw your back out. How you holding up? Hand me that board. Nothing wrong with getting help. I'm good. I did it when Felicia left. I'll figure it out. I know you will, but you don't have to do it alone. That's all I'm saying. If I promise to look into it, will you drop it and help me build this fence? Now you need my help. It can be a real pain sometimes, you know what?
Mm-hmm. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because I felt like a failure. And then I realized, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Have you ever helped a fellow veteran?
Yes. I do my best reaching out to my brothers and sisters in arms.
Have you ever asked for help yourself?
Most of us, we're not gonna admit that we need to help.
You don't have someone to kind of help you guide those thoughts. It can be really bad.
It's just a beautiful space when someone can trust you and say, listen, I need help.
Welcome back to Q30 Newscast. Quinnipiac has had a fierce week in sports. From Acro and tumbling home opener to a Bobcat winning ECAC's Forward of the Week, there's much to discuss.
Now, I'm definitely not the guy to bring you tonight's report, but here to give you all the latest sports ball news is Ava Heaton.
Thanks, guys.
Men's ice hockey graduate forward Jack Ricketts has been awarded ECAC Forward of the Week for the second time this season, following the team's road win against Dartmouth, where he recorded a hat trick. One of his 3 goals was the overtime winner as he propelled the Bobcats to a 5-4 victory. Ricketts now has 10 goals since the start of the holiday break and has quickly become a key piece for Quinnipiac. Shifting to the hardwood, women's basketball headed to Fairfield on Thursday to take on another top team in the MAC. A big game for the Bobcats, but they fall 72-63. First-year Gal Raviv was a standout once again with 21 points in the loss. Staying on the court, the men's team took on Fairfield for a rivalry game here in Hamden. The atmosphere was electrifying as the Bobcats got the win 81-69. Amari Monroe had yet another outstanding night as he recorded a then career-high 27 points in the victory. Finally, acrobatics and tumbling participated in their first meet of the season on Sunday against Morgan State. The team posted a 270.565, which is their most in a season opener since 2018. A few standout Bobcats include Gabriella Pierce scoring a 9.825 in the 6-element heat of the tumbling event, and Mia Rose King scoring a 9.8 in the 7-element heat of the acro event. Safe to say it was a strong start to the season for the team as they look forward to competing at Iona on February 15th. That's all the time we have for sports today. Back to you guys on desk.
We are well into winter, and Mount Carmel has definitely gotten its fair share of snow this year compared to some recent years.
Here to cover the winter wonderland this week is Emily Katz.
Just as the snow from the last storm seemed to clear up on Sunday night around 8 p.m., the snow started to come in again. Snow is a familiar sight in Connecticut, but Quinnipiac students always find fresh ways to enjoy campus when it falls. So I headed to the quad to ask students how they make the most out of it.
People really love to have snowball fights. I always love to make hot chocolate just because I think it's just fun. It reminds me of when I was a kid. Have a snowball fight, just play in the snow.
Most students take full advantage of the snow, with one particular activity standing out.
I love to go sledding on the Commons Hill, which is my dorm. One of my favorite things to do is sledding.
We like to go sledding down the hill in the quad. So one of my roommates last year had a little saucer and we'd always go down the hill.
And at Quinnipiac, snow even has a way of bringing out students' creative sides.
The other night when it snowed here, we found a piece of cardboard and we wrapped it in some trash bags and we went down the hill behind the library.
However, not everyone is excited to brave the cold.
When it snows on campus, I actually like to stay in, drink something warm, and watch movies.
I like to watch movies and shows. I also like to draw a little bit in my journal and stuff like that.
I like to stay inside, watch movies, order in for sure.
This atmosphere also has a unique way of bringing people together on campus.
We're very unified as a community. We all like hanging out together and we're all just connected.
I think it's awesome that they get out and they still find ways to still be physically active and also create those social bonds with their friends.
Even with the snow, campus life never slows down. It is great to see how there is never a dull day when you are a Bobcat. From outside the Arnold Bernard Library, for Q30 News, I'm Emily Katz.
So, Joe, with the report of potential snowfall tomorrow morning, do you think we're still going to have class?
Well, it seems like we're only going to get about 3 to 4 inches of snow, which for Connecticut is plenty to have classes still going, but you can always hope that we'll have classes. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll find out. It's 50-50. I mean, Wednesday is my long day. I have 7 hours of back-to-back class, 2 of them being 3 hours in the same classroom. So wouldn't mind a day up, but at the same time, it's only one class. I mean, we have class together, and it's a fun class.
Yeah.
Mary Schmidt.
It's our senior seminar. It's a wonderful class. Hopefully we still have it, but you never know. I could always use the extra sleep. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have tonight on the Q30 Newscast. Be sure to follow us on X to stay up to date with everything happening on campus.
It's been a true pleasure being here tonight. These are the Flynns, signing off from the Q30 Newscast. Good night, Bobcats.